How's it going, everybody? This is Aaron the Pedantic, and I had the feeling to just do this video. So, without any further ado, fuck it, let's just do it. So, this beautiful illustration you can see here is my own doing. I am an artist, I'm a graphic designer, and clearly my prowess exceeds everyone else's. This is a diagram that I'm using to demonstrate why resources are important in D&D. And D. And the reason this comes up is that there was recently a post somewhere about how, people, were suggesting that you should be able to use as many arrows as you like without, consuming them. Just that like tracking resources is just not fun, blah, blah, blah. To that, I will say, everyone plays a different game, and that's fine. Some people don't play for this kind of consideration, but I just wanted to kind of demonstrate how everything kind of falls apart in terms of making player choices really important in a sense of survival and problem solving and those kinds of things whenever you take away the consumption of resources. So as you can see, the arrows here all kind of show how everything feeds into each other. So first thing I will say, I'm just going to grab, let's see. I guess we'll do this. We'll just use ye old eraser. Nah, the eraser is going to make it where it's going to... We'll do this. Okay. So I'm going to use a brush of the color that will make this disappear. Now, so first things first. The whole thing that sparked it had to do with ammunition. So let's say we are no longer tracking ammunition. Okay. So you saw how ammunition requires gold. Gold weighs stuff. If you are going to use encumbrance, then you're going to be tracking your light sources. I didn't mention armor, but obviously armor is going to feed into this, which is going to feed into hit points. It's kind of sad whenever you start a video and you realize that you didn't finish your job setting it up. Everything just, well, for the most part, feeds into each other. And once you get to a certain point, you start to realize that none of this really matters that much whenever you start taking things out. So, if we're not tracking ammunition, okay, it's a hit. How big of a hit is it? Well, ammunition is going to help you not expend hit points as much because you can attack from a distance. Sometimes they cannot attack in return from a distance, so it's going to help you save hit points. Hit points require time to get back. Sometimes they require tools such as health potions. Sometimes it requires money for services rendered. Sometimes it requires spells. Again, why the fuck didn't I connect those? Fuck it, I'm gonna do it right now. You're gonna watch history as I'm going to connect these things. All right, and then that way, just so I can just make them go away. Okay. Wait, hit points don't lead to gold. Gold leads to hit points. There we go. Oh motherfucker! You don't spend hit points to get. You know what I'm talking about, okay? So now I'm just gonna get rid of that first. This is what the impromptu video turns out to be. And I don't really do editing so much. It's not because I don't respect your time. It's just because I don't have a whole lot of time of my own. So I really just kind of squeeze things in when I can. But in any case, so yeah, ammunition. We're not tracking ammunition, so we took out the gold thing. All right, this is one less thing for us to worry about for encumbrance purposes with that being gone, okay? Now, a lot of the people that I know who don't track ammunition really don't track encumbrance, okay? So it's just one of those things where, if it's so taxing for them to keep up with how many arrows they have and to find that to be something worth considering, chances are they're not going to want to keep track of how many pounds they're carrying and to decide, hey, I can't really pick up something extra because of how much stuff I've got already. A lot of times, if they've already drawn that line, they're not gonna go for this. So let's get rid of this. Everything attached to encumbrance. So that's gold. That is tools. This is gonna be so ugly. I don't see why it doesn't just let me pick out bigger brushes. If I could just have one giant ass brush, I think that it might actually let me erase in certain colors. It does. Oh my gosh, I forgot. But can I make it bigger? I don't think I can. Oh wait, no. Oh well, at least it's an eraser now. I feel a little bit better. All right, so then we have light sources. Okay. Now, so next thing, so that's everything that's related to encumbrance. Okay, now, tends to be the case that if you're not tracking encumbrance, you're probably not really keeping track of light sources. Because, well, actually, no, I take that back. If you're not doing encumbrance, there's a chance that you're not tracking time. I'd say that a lot of groups that I have encountered, they don't track time. They just consider time to be they consider it to be something that you might improvise. You're like, well, it probably took y'all about, 5 hours to clear that dungeon, because why would it have only taken, 10 minutes? But at the same time, maybe it took an hour. Like a lot of times they're like, it's one of those things where they just kind of post hoc it. They're like, well, you finished the dungeon, and now I want you to have to rest. So this much time has passed. Rather than actually keeping track of time as a mechanism to monitor progress, to record consumption, all those kinds of things. That really doesn't tend to be a big deal. So their light sources aren't really going to run out typically. They might, probably not though. You don't really, your hit points, I mean, those are still going to take time, but it's going to be it's not really the same kind of measurement. We're going to keep that there though, because there's still the short rest, long rest dynamic. Natural healing, all those kinds of things. So we're going to keep that there. Spell memorization, we're going to keep that with time. Just because it would be uncharitable for me to just say, no, they don't care about that stuff. So we're going to keep that there. Okay. Now, but this is one less thing for them to spend gold on. And if you're playing 5th edition, chances are somebody has the light spell. You don't have to memorize that. Gone. All you do is you learn your cantrip. You have so many cantrips, and you can use those whenever. If not that, they probably have dark vision, and the DM's not really keeping track of dark vision in the way that you probably should. That is to consider the passive perception going down due to disadvantage because you're in dim light, or at least you see things as dim light. The inability to read properly because you can't make out, you just basically see shades of gray. You might be able to. No, I would say you probably couldn't read. You might be able to. It's arguable. Okay. I mean, so if you're not tracking encumbrance, you probably have as many tools as you fucking like. Because why wouldn't you? I would buy every tool in the fucking world. I would just be Batman. That's, I mean, just how it is. So you are spending gold on tools to a degree, but maybe you're able to use magic to supplement most of your tool needs. I will just tell you flat out, when I've played 5th edition, I really haven't had much need of tools. When I play older editions, I do. Because magic is just less plentiful. Some people have argued that, but I mean, think about it this way. 4th edition, okay, I can't speak on 3rd edition. I didn't play a 3rd edition. I don't know it. But 4th edition, you had powers, you had at will, you had daily, you had encounter. So, I mean, you just choose your powers and, you know, you're good. But as far as 5th edition goes, you know, you start with like 2 spells at level 1. You've got usually like 1 to 5 cantrips. I want to say you start with like 3, typically, like as a wizard. And, you know, usually you get a new spell every level, and it goes up and up and up and up. Old school, you start with 1 spell, and you work your way up. And you don't have cantrips. So there's not really some kind of reliable utility mechanism. My lizard really wants attention, but I'm going to pay attention to y'all right now because you are the ones who chill out with me. Anyway, well, he chills out with me too. I'll probably get him out in a second when I'm kind of done with the video. But anyway, so where was I at? Spell memorization. Yeah, this doesn't really play too terribly heavy in most of the games I run. So I'm actually going to say it's kind of a wash. And here's the reason why. You really shouldn't be letting them sleep in dungeons anyway, unless they've cleared it. And if they've cleared it, it's really not that big of a deal. And a few extra hours isn't really going to do anything. If they haven't cleared it, then they should be getting harassed in the dungeon and tormented. They shouldn't be able to get proper sleep, etc., etc. So I'm going to take this off there. But I will say that, you know, spells have durations. So if you're not tracking time, it becomes kind of arbitrary. Then the gold to hit points, I'd say that's going to stay, probably. Because chances are, a lot of times people are going to be paying for, they're going to be paying for healing potions. I see that a lot. They're going to be possibly paying for somebody to heal them. Not terribly often. A lot of times when I see people, you know, role-playing, you know, DMs that have like clerics or something like that, somebody that can heal the party, they just do it. You know, they don't really concern themselves with self-enrichment. But yeah, so I mean, this is kind of what we're left with, and it's not much. It's really not much. Considering everything that we started with, you know, there was so much for, you know, the players to really bite into, to really ground themselves in the world. And it's just gone now, you know, and most of it is just gone. And what's left is basically fantasy fight simulator. I mean, there's some other stuff there, but it's just not much. I am a firm believer that this right here is one of your most important things to track. This is something that I didn't always track. I mean, when I started, I pretty much played in the... Okay, he wants attention. Just a second. All right, this is Gimdall. Gimdall, say hello to the world. Gimdall says hello. He also wants to stand in a very majestic pose. So, yeah, I don't know if you can actually see him from that angle because I can't see the camera. I played in the very kind of critical role way-ish, where I focused mostly on having, you know, interesting NPCs, you know, really narrative descriptions. The locations sounded cool. There was a lot of conversations. I still do a lot of conversations, and I really still do a lot of that stuff, but it's a lot less narrative driven. And I focus more on presenting challenges that don't typically just get solved with a die roll. And that is kind of where things have taken a serious turn for my gaming. Now, in the current games that I run, I expect them to track most of this stuff. I don't bother them with it too terribly. The things that I bother them most about are light sources and time. Time is enormous. I really don't audit their ammunition or anything like that. But time is a huge thing that I try to focus on. Same thing, I don't really audit their encumbrance, but I talk to them about it. And I would say you don't have to use ye old school encumbrance rules in order to make that part of the game interesting. You just need to have something in place where the players are considering, can I carry this? Can I afford to carry this, or is this going to be something that's going to slow me down? If you're doing that, then you're doing your job in that aspect. Spell memorization, I think that to an extent, the new school D&D, 5th edition, it does kind of involve that to a degree. It's more that your variety gets narrowed because you have to choose which ones you learn for the day or which ones you're preparing, but you don't prepare it to the same extent, where you're deciding how many of what per day. And so because of that, you can just kind of choose to pick these particular spells to cover the whole range, and then you just have to save your slots, and that's it. And whenever I play a wizard in 5th edition, usually what I do is I learn ritual spells and I don't prepare them, because I can just cast them as a ritual with 10 minutes time. A lot of times the DMs don't do anything with time, so we're not worrying about rolling a random encounter. So, there's nothing really to lose for me to just be well, I didn't prepare it for the day, but I'm going to use Detect Magic. Okay, 10 minutes passes, whatever. They don't check, random encounters. It's honestly kind of part of, one of the things that I wish more people did. But in any case, so there's really no loss there. Just get your ritual magic, and there you go. Then you can prepare magic missile, you can prepare shield, you can prepare mage armor, all those kind of things. And then you still have your utility spells, and you just use them for ritual casting. And it's very easy. Whereas when I'm playing in 2nd edition, I have no ritual spells. So everything that I'm casting is something that I prepared. And a lot of times I'm preparing, 2 cure light wounds, 1 cure moderate wound. So I'm trying to make sure I've got the healing there. I'll have, if we're going to be outside for a long time, I might use Sun Scorch. When it comes to light sources, I've got some torches, I've got some rations, I've got my wine skin. If we're traveling for a long time, I'll take a level of, I'll take 1 create water for the day. So, those are the kinds of things I take into consideration. And once we're going, down into some kind of crypt or something, if I have a night to sleep beforehand, then I'll be well, I don't need Sun Scorch. I'm going to take Entangle instead, maybe. If we're not, if we're at a place where I can, grab the roots and pull them out of the ground, or I might take, something to create fog. I can't remember what it's called. Obscurement or something like that. But in any case, it's just different. It's just different. There's been a systematic removal, and it's not purely in the system. When I say systematic, I mean there's just been it's more of in the realm of play. Some of it's in the system, obviously the way spell slots are done, but in the way cantrips are. I'm going to do a whole thing on cantrips. But all of this stuff has just taken out all of these aspects that players might be able to use to do some serious planning and resource management. To the point where the only real resource you have is spell slots and hit points and special abilities. And that's kind of sad to me. People love it. So, that's cool for them. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to like knock the way people play. I'm just saying that like it doesn't really do it for me. And this is something I think if more people tried it instead of kind of like being like, oh, why would I want to do that? Because, you know, originally when I started, I was like, why would I want to do that? But once I actually thought about it, like it really starts to set. Once I started running a lot of games, that's whenever it really set in because I started to notice the pacing and you know like where the challenge was, and the challenge really isn't in the combat so much in 5e, unless you really overwhelm them just with huge numbers of enemies, and then combat takes forever. So if it's not there, you need to find where it is somewhere else. And it's really hard to put it in. I'm sorry to say. There's just not as many circumstances to put in that kind of challenge in the game. So what it ends up being is, like I said, very focused on fighting or very focused on social role playing. And that's it. And I like that third pillar. I like exploration. That is my favorite, I would say. Exploration and social, a little bit of combat. That's where I live in. Anyway, that is the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed my beautiful, beautiful art. And take it easy. Thanks for dropping by. I hit stop.